All righty. Welcome everyone to Satsang. So good to have you all here. So this is it. Just this. Whatever sounds, sensations, feelings, thoughts, whatever's happening, whatever's arising right now. This is it. This is what's longed for. This is what's looked for, but it's not seen by the me. This moment is not seen as wholeness. In fact, just the opposite. To the me, this moment is insufficient. The me feels separate, and so it's seeking for a solution to this constant nagging feeling of feeling separate. Separate from what? Separate from life. And so that's the illusion. There is nothing separate from life because there's only life. And life can look like anything, literally. So if you're a me, you're in for, as you know, a world of suffering, because what is often is not in alignment with what me wants. And so me gets very frustrated and looks for a solution to its problem. And it's a seeking cycle, and it's endless. And there's no peace, and there's no wholeness. There's just more seeking in seeking. So tonight's satsang is a full stop. It's getting you to stop long enough to get out of the world of thoughts, this illusory world that the me lives in, that is only substantiated by its own dream, you see. Because my dream says it so, I believe it. But there's no other substantiation except my little hallucination. That's it. In other words, the dream corroborates itself. It says, this is true because I feel this way. So here at Satsang tonight, we're going to go into this separate me and see if it really exists. And more importantly, is it you? Are you really this seeking entity? Right? Because the me feels limited, and so it's looking for a solution. The only problem is the world is made of limitation. So you have a separate, limited me seeking for wholeness in the world, in the appearance, in the dream, and there's only limitation in the dream. Why do I say limitation? Because everything has a boundary to it. So even if you get what you want, it doesn't last because it's limited. And the seeking is designed that way. And this is really important. The seeking is designed to wear off. It's by design. So that's why when you get what you want, you say, God, how come it doesn't last? It's because if you were completely satisfied with a cup of coffee, so satisfied that you didn't eat anything for 6 months, there goes the dream. That doesn't keep the dream going. So in order for the dream to keep going, the seeking has to continue. But you can notice this. So this is why we come satsang, to get the message, the wake-up call. Oh, instead of being the dream, you're saying I can notice the dream? Yes. So we call that discrimination. Right now, we're not very good at it. So we kind of slip into the dream, or as Paul Hederman says, into what's not happening. And we mistake that for reality. And that one simple little activity obscures the wholeness here completely. So you can see the different starting position. The me says, I'm not whole and I'm seeking it. Satsang saying, there's only wholeness. There's only wholeness disguised as whatever is appearing. So you can see those are two completely different, couldn't get more 180. One is starting from lack and hopes to achieve wholeness. The other is starting at wholeness and staying there, because that's all there is. But not in story. If you go to mind, if you go to thoughts, you can always find a problem in thought. But whether you're imagining a problem or not, does wholeness have a problem? Is this moment ever having a problem, even if you're in crisis? The moment itself. See, that's the arrogance of the me. You've heard me talk about that. Because I think something's wrong, like something didn't work out the way I thought it should, then I think wholeness is left the building. Wholeness is broken, and I have to go get it because I don't feel whole. So the message here at Satsang is your feelings, good or bad, positive or negative, have no effect on wholeness whatsoever. But you can imagine it, they do, and then that'll be your experience. So this is an open satsang, meaning you're all invited to share. Just unmute yourself, jump in if you have a comment or question.
I'll say something.
That's my New York girl.
Two things, Michael. One, so funny. So I had a mammogram last week, and of course, you know me, I was a little like worked up about it, but and so I've been like using satsang. I know this is like probably a misuse of wholeness, but so yesterday I got good news, everything's good and everything. I'm like, I'm going to ride that puppy. Like I'm going to ride that good feeling, out. Like I am not going to let other crap. The other thing is that I don't know if Ron, I'm sure it's okay for me. Anyway, Ron has a hernia, it turns out. And he's going to have a hernia operation next week. And when we first found out, I could literally feel, because that day I was like, wow, he seems really chipper and more himself. And I could feel the story arise. Now here we go. And he's going to go down the black hole. And, he's got to have this operation. And then I just could feel myself going, you know what? No.
Good. Good job. So that's the noticing in action. Very good, Amy. That's to notice, because 9 times out of 10, we just go with what arises unconsciously.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is one is being the thought and the other is noticing the thought, and they're not the same. So noticing a thought is not getting involved. It's just you're aware sort of a thought is on scene. You're aware of that. Something is aware that a thought has shown up, yeah? Now that is different than believing the thought, arguing with the thought, getting involved with the thought, touching the thought. The noticing is coming from a different place. And in fact, Dan and I were talking about this earlier today in a phone call, about the difference between noticing as a me, which oftentimes will happen at satsang, is this will all be heard through the me. So whatever you like, you'll agree with. Whatever I say you don't like, you won't, and like that. It'll be in a judgment type of a way. But there's a different, deeper part that I'm speaking to now that is not the me. That intuitively senses the truth that you are wholeness, even if it's covered over with layers of conditioning and story. Something in you resonates with this message of wholeness. That's what I'm speaking to right now. I'm not speaking to the me, because the me is an illusion. The me cannot awaken.
The me is a busy bee going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a problem when you notice it. It actually is quite comical when you see the poor bastard, how hard he's working to try and get this right. Like you actually begin to have because you realize it's just nonstop suffering for the me. It's like putting out fire after fire, and as long as you're along for the ride, you're suffering. So this is about seeing you are actually never the me you took yourself to be. Nor was I, nor is anybody. There actually are no me's. It's an illusion, and it just happens with the body. Around 18 months old, the baby begins to develop a sense of, hold on, let me let Joan in, a sense of I'm here, right? So first the baby's born. It has no sense of anything, just coming out of mama. And the first thing it does is it begins to, at some point, get a sense of, oh, I'm here. Now, it doesn't know where here is. But as soon as here begins to dawn on the consciousness, then comes I'm here. And with I'm here, once the basket of I'm here, then as a child, we learn our name. In fact, I was just thinking about that. Do you remember, they don't really do this anymore, but when I was a kid, you could bring $1 and put it in an envelope, and they gave you an envelope. And if you were Jewish, you could check a Jewish star, and it was a bracelet. It was like a chain bracelet. If you're a Christian, it would have a cross on it and have your name. And you could use it for hopscotch. Well, I just thought that was the coolest thing, because I got, as a kid, to see my name chiseled out in a bracelet, and somehow that made me more permanent. Look, I'm a real person because I have a bracelet that has my name on it. And that's sort of how the identity works. The more solid I can surround myself with things that I think are mine, the more real my sense of self is. But it never works, because it's like keeping those, balls in the air. You're not real. You're not, what you are can't be, it's not a thing. So you can notice that, right? The sense of being a me wanting to prove itself. It's the thing that's always trying to prove itself. It's the thing trying to be right. It's the thing trying to know what's going to happen in the future. Now, what's the difference between that energy and what's already here, this moment? What is this moment lacking?
Separate.
As moments lacking suffering. Yeah, if there's a me here, there's suffering. It's just at a lower degree. Like sometimes the me is more fiery, and sometimes it's a little more dormant. But if there's a me here, there's always suffering. It's just the amount we're talking. Because the me is incomplete by its own nature. It's an illusion. I was saying to Dan on the phone, I was telling him, I said, you know, it's sort of like, you guys know how there can be a mirage on a desert road up ahead of water. So imagine if you and I are standing together and I say to you, oh, look at that puddle of water on the desert road, you know, up there, you know, 50 yards. And you go, wow, how did water get here? So we get closer and finally we walk right up to it. You start laughing because you realize, oh, there's no water there. It was an illusion. It was the reflection. It was the light. It's a trick of the mind, right? It's a trick of the mind. Just like a rainbow. A rainbow's not really there, you see? It takes the combination of the rain and the sun and you standing at the perfect angle to make a rainbow. But a rainbow by itself doesn't exist. So what you think of as you is a combination of, you're assuming because there's a thought and imagination and a name and a body, that equals a separate entity. You see that? In other words, this is empty. There's nothing in here except bones and blood and stuff that makes the body. There's no you inside the body. Now, I'm just sharing with you my experience. You can't just believe it. That's not good enough. You need to investigate this for yourself. That's the magic. That's when you'll start to really reap the benefits and go, oh, I see what he's talking about for myself. And one way you know you're doing that is if you can start to repeat these things in your own words, because they resonate. They're your truth. You're like, oh, I see what he's saying, but you put it in your own words. So that's why, you know, it's not about the words. Words are for story, and there's nothing wrong with story if you see it as story. Story is beautiful. We all love stories. There's horror stories and detective stories and mysteries, and stories are wonderful when they're seen simply as stories. But if they're my story, right, MY, just those two little letters, it ruins everything.
Michael, I was just realizing that because I'm, you know, I'm in a lot of pain, whatever, and is that I'm almost always, even if I'm not really present, I'm at least a few seconds ahead or behind. You know, even when I'm getting close to being right now, I'm really a few seconds ahead or back, and that's just as bad as a year ahead. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, completely. Yeah. What did they say? You know, a miss is as good as a mile. In other words, there is no past, there is no future, and there's not even really a now. All there ever is what's happening. Now, if there's just what's happening, notice that completely puts the me out of a job.
Does that stop? Is that like, to me, it's like, I'm feeling like it's a stopping of efforting.
Yeah.
There's a difference between efforting and just being here.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. That is That is kind of it. Because you realize how much effort as a me you're trying to make things happen because you think they're important to your happiness, that it works out like that. But wholeness isn't doing that because wholeness is already whole. So in a way, if you take yourself to be a separate me, the seeking makes total sense, right? I'm not happy, so I'm seeking happiness. So in the world of the me, seeking, there's nothing else to do but seek. But at Satsang, we're saying you've already made the error. You've already assumed you're a one. And Satsang is about zero.
Michael, can I just ask a question? Just about when you talked about feelings earlier, about how feelings come and go, and what's the relationship between thought, and we've probably talked about this before, the relationship between thoughts and feelings. When you talk about feelings coming and going, is it just the same sort of thing as saying thoughts come and go? Or thoughts seem to be tied to feelings, no? What's their relationship?
Well, thoughts and feelings?
Yeah.
The relationship to what?
Well, to each other. Can you use them interchangeably in a way? Like thoughts come and go, feelings come and go. Is there a difference between thoughts and feelings?
Well, I mean, I don't know if this helps, Faith, but everything comes and goes all by itself. Nobody's doing it. So it really doesn't matter what it is. Whatever's coming is coming, and whatever is going is going. And the point is, nobody's doing it. And that's what the me can't hear. So I was kind of joking, right? I was laughing to myself. I was laughing because I go, yeah, control is for losers. Because there is no control. But you have to see that on your own. That's why I say go try everything. If what's being shared here doesn't resonate and you think the world still has something to offer you, then you should probably go do it, right? Because your me has more seeking. But if you've reached the end of your rope, if you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, and again, Diane and I talk about this surrender. It's not that we didn't try. It's just that the futility of seeking hit us over the head and we were exhausted. And we just said, I don't know how this works. See, one of the problems for the me is it thinks it knows what this is. Right? I know I'm here and this is Earth and I'm in my apartment and it knows all these things and that's all story. None of that is actually true. But not knowing anything isn't a big seller. A book, my latest book, what's it about? Nothing. Which will be followed up by my next book, more nothing.
Michael, can I say a little bit about the thoughts and
Please.
feeling?
Thank you.
Because that's a lot of the work that I do with people, is getting them to look at their thoughts and feelings in that more impersonal way. But what I've noticed with myself and in clients is if you have a thought, it depends on what you believe about the thought. The feeling will come with that thought. And that can be obviously different from person to person, because a thought by itself is quite neutral, but your belief about the thought is what makes the difference. And then a feeling will arise, but still that, when you see it, as you mentioned initially, is if you can see it from that impersonal place, it all just drops away quite quickly. When you're identified with it, it just carries on, and then a story is built, and that's the me having an adventure. So when you can see your thoughts and feelings arise as they do and begin to be that impersonal witness, that just is a game changer.
Yeah.
So it's only a me who suffers thoughts and feelings.
Right. I like the word used, personal and impersonal, because to me, that's the distinction between who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the part of you that is personal, that you think is personal or separate. I'm talking to the part of you right now that's impersonal. That awareness that's looking out these eyes is the same awareness that's looking out your eyes. The awareness that's hearing this voice is the same awareness in all beings, because there's only one being, one awareness. So that's non-duality, meaning not two. So the illusion is it's the one appearing as the many, and we get fooled. So we really think that the separation is real, and it does feel real. And so we come to satsang if we're drawn. You know, do you have something in you that smells a rat? You know, like something, this me business and trying to get all your ducks in a row doesn't work. If you are convinced, you give up, you say, no, I can't do this anymore. I don't know how to do life. Yeah, you don't know how to do life because you think you have a life. You don't have a life because there's only life. So the having a life is the suffering. Dan, did you have anything to add?
I'm going to unmute myself to say no. No, not really at this point. I think what Diane said was really good. Well, I guess I do. Just to emphasize that as we're kind of seeing, it doesn't really matter whether it's a thought or a feeling, and then, you know, maybe a thought and a feeling together would be an emotion. There's a perception, a sensation. It's just all stuff showing up, appearing. So, and the one who is trying to just, you know, figure out what it is and what to call it, I mean, that could be helpful, but that's the me. So all this is to be noticed. And just to notice when stuff is showing up, whatever it is, whether it's a mountain, you know, out the window. If I'm starting to build a story about it, and I'm starting to, you know, if there's an energy of getting involved with it, being involved with it, then that's the thing to notice. Oh, there's the me again. There it is. And that's not me. That's not who I am. That moment is the noticing. So, in other words, get used to just seeing it all as stuff, all as arising stuff, whatever it is, thoughts, feelings, stories, beliefs, judgments, sounds, memories, you know, it's just all passing stuff.
Thank you.
Is that helpful? I hope. Good.
That is to me.
So, Michael, and everyone, what I have been doing this week as a result of my communication with Michael, I had noticed resistance, and with that, it's like I just say to myself, I feel the resistance, and this is the person that's feeling it, and I will carry that to other emotions I feel, that this is just this is a person, and I don't exist. The person doesn't exist. It feels kind of more peaceful to do it that way instead of getting lost in the resistance. Excuse me. And that's a lot of what I've been noticing this week is resistance, just resistance. And I guess my next question would be, is that like okay? Is that how you do it? It seems like that's the right thing for me to do right now, and realize that the person doesn't exist, but This is what seems to be doing it.
Yeah, notice the resistance, Alice, and also see resistance, because we're starting from wholeness. Resistance is wholeness too.
That's right. That's right. I forgot that. Yeah, resistance is appearing in wholeness.
See, again, when my story goes south, right? I think because I have a headache that wholeness has left the building, right? Well, I don't feel whole, so therefore wholeness must not be here anymore.
Right.
That's just the story. The headache, your headache, my headache, anybody's headache, has no effect on wholeness. Why? Because there's only wholeness, disguised as everything. So the idea that wholeness would appear as resistance would never occur to most of us. You would never think that. How could wholeness be resistance? But again, there's only wholeness. And wholeness is so free, it can appear as anything. Literally anything. Anything you can think of and anything you can't think of. So wholeness is playing all the roles. In a way, you could say God is playing hide and go seek with himself, with himself. Or herself. Right? It's all God, but God's pretending to forget it's all God. That's the game.
You have said that so many times, Michael, to me and in this satsang group, and I write it down, and yet when it's happening, I forget that whatever is happening is appearing in wholeness. Not all the time, but I would say most of the time I forget it.
But that resistance, Alice, is not you. It's not your resistance. It's the Alice in the dream that is resisting her dream, and you're feeling that. That's showing up, that feeling of resistance. But you're used to the idea that you're Alice.
Yes.
But now you know that that's Alice resisting her experience. But that's what Alice is going to do, because every me is resistant to their experience. That's why we come to satsang.
Yes.
So see that we're not that one. We're not the me. We're not that one that's resisting, and that resistance is not happening to you. It's happening to Alice, in other words. Does this make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense.
So actually, when that resistance comes up, that's a good opportunity to notice that you're not Alice.
Yes.
In that moment.
To notice that I'm not Alice.
Not
But
the character.
notice that it's appearing in wholeness, both of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Maybe just play with that and see where it goes.
Okay.
Can I just jump in here?
Go ahead.
How about right now, Alice? Who's speaking?
Alice.
Yeah. So you don't have to go to a hypothetical, right? We see that a lot at satsang. People will bring in stories, nothing wrong with it. But I'm always going to take you back to the immediacy of this moment, because that's all I'm interested in. I can hear you. The me has stories for days. So you're sick of hearing them. Why do you think others want to hear them? So it does take, we call it earnestness. Is this important to you? Is seeing what Dan and I are pointing at and Diane are pointing to, is that of interest? Does something in you get excited? Because really that's the spark, that's the light that That's it. If that's there, your head is in the tiger's mouth. Just keep. But if this doesn't resonate, nothing can make it resonate. You know, if the me is very thick and has ideas and lots to do and a big life, then this message tends to land more for, and again, this is all story, but it tends to land for more of those that are at the end of their rope.
So we come here every week, most of us. So we would be close to the end of the rope. I mean, I'm giving up the debate to be here.
Well, you'll know, because when I say there's only this moment, what is it that has a problem with that?
It would be
Hi.
Hi, Sharon.
I'm so new to your paradigm and your words and your language, but I'm trying to understand. So in this moment, there can be, you said, what's wrong with this moment? In this moment, there could be pain, there could be grief, there can be fear, there can be many, many things that are incredibly uncomfortable and are incredibly painful.
Yeah.
So when you say, what's wrong with this moment, just stick with that. That's what's wrong with this moment. So are you saying in your paradigm, there's nothing wrong with that? The pain and sorrow and grief and suffering.
Yeah, I am saying that. What's wrong? What's wrong?
Take me to how that's not a problem. Explain in the concept of wholeness how if in this second there is grief and pain and sorrow, that's not a problem.
Well, so there's 2 points here, Sharon. One is there's what's arising, right, which you're calling the pain and the grief and the sorrow. Okay, that is arising. So
right.
we can agree there, right? There's some common ground. So I'm not denying that that is your experience. So that is what is. What I am saying is that it's not happening to anyone.
Okay. I would, and remember, I'm new, but I understand it as it is, but there's more. Not that I'm here, but there's more. I'm connected to everything. That's the way I understand wholeness, as opposed to I'm taking away, I'm nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm everything.
Yeah. So you can't, your mind, and that's, by the way, Sharon, this is all predictable. Like this is all par for the course. All your questions are good questions. And because this is what's so shocking, you guys, even the me is not personal. How would you create a me? How would you do that?
Wait, you're asking me?
No. I'm just asking as a, a rhetorical question. You have no, I just want you to see if you can notice that this me that we've taken ourselves to be, some of us, like I said, 40, 50, 60 years, it doesn't matter the amount of time. All that matters is in this moment, does something resonate that maybe you're not who you thought you were? Maybe you're not who you imagined you were. Is that possible? Are you open to that? How does that hit you?
that hits me somehow with relief. So that's why I keep coming. Just I come and I come and I come, and I think I'm at the end of the rope, but the rope's still there. So,
Well, let's look at that, because the rope is still there. Could it be seen that that's a story?
yeah, true.
And I'm not
Yeah,
discounting
true.
it. It can feel like that. But if you say, well, Michael, it's how I
Yeah.
feel, I'm still going to say it's a story and a feeling. It's still not a you.
Yeah.
Do you guys see the distinction?
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm saying this trick is so well designed. It's kind of like Pinocchio. You know, because Pinocchio had a body and he had eyes and ears, he thought he was alive. And so this dream is designed so no one's done anything wrong. You had no choice. I had no choice. As babies, the program was to believe you're here. By the way, notice that you don't know where here is. We say here as if we know what that is. Oh, I'm here in Los Angeles. Well, that's just a word. So this idea of here seems so solid and energetically contracted. And once that contraction is set up, then everything becomes mine. Everything has to do with me. Everything is filtered through this me, good or bad. It has a comment about everything. And that is an exhausting way to live. That is exhausting, having to judge every moment for what's good and what's bad. Is this help me? Does this hurt me? Is this person of use to me? Are they not of use to me? Are they a threat? The me is never at rest. You're not actually going anywhere. Do you know what I mean by that? Does anyone know what I mean by that? You're not moving. What you are never moves. You're watching the body. The body is moving. You're not in time. You're the timeless. Everything else happens in time. So that's why you've not been able to find what you're looking for. Does this make sense? You're looking in time, but you're the timeless. So nothing in time is going to scratch that itch. Nothing is going to give you that wholeness and that freedom that you long for. Nothing in the world. So see that you're already whole right now. Right now, you're already whole. And the thoughts are going to be as they are. And they don't have to change. If you're already whole, why do your thoughts need to change?
Because they create suffering. That's what I think. It's like, you know, just my experience, the experience, not mine, whatever. There's an experience over here of suffering, and I'd like to get out of it. And so that's why you come here. But, you know, it's the me wanting, I don't know, the me takes hold of it and it suffers. And the few moments when I get what you're saying, it usually feels a lot more peaceful, but it only lasts a few moments.
Well, you kind of got it wrong, because you said the me's trying to get something. So
Feel good.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of the moment being as it is, and again, you're not doing the moment. The moment is how it is, and nobody's doing it, right? There's only what's happening, and no one's doing it. So there can be good, there can be bad, there can be positive, there can be, anything can happen in the moment. You're not doing any of it. So if an uncomfortable feeling arises, that's just what's happening, but it doesn't mean anything. Do you see? The me slaps meaning on your suffering, on your story. gives it meaning. That's your suffering, because you think it means something. Wholeness isn't suffering. That's a dream. You're in your own private hell. And it's a dream. And so we come to satsang to wake up out of the dream of me, right? How can you suffer without a me? How can you have a story if there's no me there?
There's a sense of pain. There's
Yeah.
a sense of suffering.
Yep.
Sense of regret, anguish, whatever. That's a fact.
But are they, this is the most important question. Are they yours, Ron?
No, because there is no Ron.
And they're not personal, right? Because we all know what that feels like. How many here know what pain feels like? How many here know what suffering feels like? How many know what jealousy, fear, all of that? It's not unique to you. And the me thinks everything's personal, but all those emotions, every being has their own version. The story may look different, but those are universal. That's why if somebody's crying in, Bombay, India, you don't need to speak, Marathi to understand that that person is suffering. You can see the tears. You know what that means. There is nothing personal. That really is the message. Even death is not personal, because everything dies. But the me will take it personally. It's not a very upbeat satsang. So where's Diane? Diane, can you share anything about the difference between believing a thought and seeing it?
One thing I was going to say before is that we have this misconception that the me is going to be free of any negative emotions, that's what the transition is, that you're just going to have no resistance. There's an idea that holiness or something is something to do with behavior or how you respond in life, but that's really not it. It's about letting go of this judgment of what's arising in the moment. Really, that's all it is. And just stepping back and observing that, as I always keep harping, which was always what I kept doing, was who is seeing this, what is seeing this, and keep going back. And I do that often still. And as soon as you do that, everything drops away. Your sense of identification with it just melts as soon as you take that step back. And what I often say to people in sessions is, are you aware that you are aware? And breathing might be an example. I get them to concentrate on their breath. Now, everyone's aware of your breath, but are you aware that you are aware of your breath is another step back. And that makes it all a lot softer. And if you continue to do that, am I aware of what I'm aware of? There's awareness of being aware, if that makes any sense. And that's what takes you back a lot further than just that sense of interaction with whatever's arising in the moment, which is very sticky.
Yeah, that awareness you're talking about is when I use the word impersonal. So the awareness is not, right, it's not the me. So when I say me, the me is the thing that takes it personally, seemingly, right? The illusory me. But the awareness that Diane's talking about is impersonal. And so your experience is completely different. But I have to say, right, Diane, there is like a kind of a skill to this. There is you get better at noticing, and pretty soon stories that used to get you, you do start laughing because you don't buy it anymore.
Yeah, crazy thoughts still arise, but they have no depth whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's no one making them happen or no one trying to stop them anymore. It's just, well, there it is. It's there. And I think it's relevant to understand that that comes from whatever conditioning you've had, whatever society you've born up in. You sort of have a program going. We are all programmed. The me is a program, but you can be outside and be aware of that program. You can notice your programming. Therefore, the program doesn't have any effect on the self or the consciousness, or it still runs. It still runs in the background, but
no, Diane, that's actually exactly that's another thing Dan and I were talking about, is the machine or the programming. And all we're saying is notice the programming rather than being the programming. So let me just explain. Daniel's threatening to make a video on noticing, so we'll see if that happens. The noticing is impersonal. It's just noticed. So you notice that right now anger is arising, or guilt or grief is arising. You're noting, you're not denying. This is not a denial. In fact, by you being present with your grief or your suffering or your anxiety, you actually being still with it, it changes your experience of it.
And I would just say, make note that these are the two options every moment. Either be I forgot how you said it, but be the story, be the experience. What did you say? The belief, whatever it is. Either be it or notice it. And it's either one or the other. So again, you can also just notice or look in this moment, which of those two things is going on. If I'm not noticing, then I'm participating in the story, and I'm being the character in the story, which we also call suffering. Okay, now to notice, that's the other option. And this will not necessarily be clear as I'm saying it now, but it gets clear when you look into this. It's becoming clear as Michael explains it. But to notice means you're actually being in this moment as the space, as who you are. In other words, as what's aware, let's say, of this character. The other option is to be as the character, right? So, in other words, notice the character or be the character. And you get to choose every moment.
And the nice thing, thank you, Dan. Thanks, Diane. The nice thing about that is it actually gives you something to do. So you notice how the me always wants something to do. So there you go. You got a job now. Instead of going to thought and going on the treadmill and suffering and spinning, I call it spinning, you've got a new task. You're actually going to recruit the me to do something that will actually relieve your suffering. And that is to notice going into story rather than being the story.
And so when you're noticing, you're actually working for who you really are instead of working for the character in the dream. And the character in the dream is really all about suffering. Doesn't have any truth to it. So when you're noticing, you're actually just working on behalf of truth instead of on behalf of the story.
And notice that we're not trying to fix the me. No fixing, right? We're not trying to do anything with the me, because at Satsang, the message is the me is actually an illusion. So we're not trying to rehabilitate, fix the me, make it better, make it chakras go up, vibrate at a higher level, none of that. We're saying you're already wholeness. You're already wholeness. There's nothing you can do about it. All you can do is imagine that you're separate.
The story is unfixable. Sorry, go ahead.
I think what I do is I notice my reactions. So I'm feeling them and then I'm noticing them, but then I come back in and make a judgment about it. Because that noticing doesn't seem to relieve me of the suffering.
Okay.
I notice.
So Faith, I'm just going to tell you, I know what the deal is, and it's everybody falls into this. You stop noticing. You stop, in other words, you said you were noticing, and then at a certain point, you didn't keep noticing. So the recommendation is to notice and keep noticing.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
So
Got it.
fall off the bicycle, but then you don't have to do anything about the falling off. You just notice. You notice that, oh, I fell off the bicycle.
And notice when you're not noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then you notice.
Right. By noticing whatever you notice.
Because the me is always going to be up to all kinds of stuff, judging and trying to make it, all the kind of stuff the me is always doing. It's doing that all the time, 24/7. That's why it's the me. So you don't have to do anything about that. Just notice it.
Thank you.
Can I say something? I like to use another analogy as well, and it's kind of like a camera angle, the cameraman. And maybe this will help you, Sharon, but the camera pans in for a close-up, or it can pan out. And cultivating that ability to pan in and out, I use as one of my tools. I don't know if that helps you at all.
Yeah, no, I like that. I've heard that before, and
so what we're trying to do here
makes sense to me.
What we're trying to do is pan out.
Space. You're creating space.
Yeah, we want to pan out. So like the me is reactive, but the wholeness responds. Doesn't react to anything. It can respond, and there's no ego in the game. No skin in the game to a response, but in a reaction, your whole me is in the game. That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
So life is doing everything. That's the simple message of satsang. But what makes the simple message of life is doing everything, so this moment brought to you by life, is whole and complete as it is. But if there's a me on the scene, so be sensitive. I often talk about a sensitivity. If there's an urge to fix this moment, and it doesn't mean you can't do things, right? So, if, a leg breaks on a chair and you need to repair it, no problem, you repair the chair. But whether the chair leg was broken or repaired never affects wholeness. It's still whole. Wholeness is never broken. And the me lives in the world of things can be broken. So this will be up on YouTube, hopefully in the next 24 hours or so. I recommend rewatching all the satsangs because you just let it permeate. There's no doing. You just listen to it, and if there's a resonance, it just goes deeper, that there's just wholeness, and that becomes your default. So right now, the me is the default, the one that's trying to get it right, that's scared all the time. So the more you see this, the more you get in the habit of just observing. And you stay as the observer. And I know it's hard at first, but I promise you, it gets easier and enjoyable, because the more you do it, the more freedom you experience, the less suffering. That right there will get you to keep doing it. Once you see the results that oh, this is so different than I imagined. Because you can't imagine this. That's the thing. So don't think you can know what this is. This isn't, I'm not speaking to the mind. Go ahead, Alice.
I know time is running out, and I want to ask a quick question if I can. There was quite a bit of discussion of noticing thought. You fall off the bicycle, notice. I know you've said, wholeness is always there, resistance is appearing in wholeness. How do these two things kind of go together? How can I keep noticing and then knowing that's all appearing in wholeness? Okay, Daniel?
Wow. I get the tough ones.
You looked at me like I'm not.
Oh. Yeah, well, they don't really need to go together. Because what this is really about is just seeing the activity of the me, recognizing Alice, because Alice doesn't know anything about wholeness. Alice is trying to get wholeness and get understand this and be able to use it in the right way.
Right.
Okay. So that is just the thing to understand. Alice is not going to get wholeness.
That's a seeking again, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but this can be gone into a little more, because that is a big question. I think probably it relates, everybody has some form of this question. So I don't know, Michael can step in and say
no, something. I love that Alice will never get wholeness. So does everybody see your me will never get whole? You'll never figure this out. It can't be understood. How are you going to understand everything and nothing? So that's why I'm saying this isn't a mind job. Well, I'm not speaking to the mind. The mind will not be able to figure this out, and it wants to figure this out, because in the world, figuring things out is how we get things done, right? If you want to learn a new language, right, there's things you can do. This is not the same. And the me approaches awakening in the same way it approaches any other goal. Well, if I do X, Y, and Z, it'll take me there. But again, listen, wholeness is already the case. So no doing will take you there. Doing can actually only take you away from it. Not really, but there's no doing. You can't do to get what is. You can only recognize that what is what's longed for. And I want to thank everybody for coming to Satsang. Especially I want to shout out to Diane and Joyce and Alan for the donations. Thanks so much, greatly appreciated. I'm available if anybody wants privates by donation. If you want a question, no problem, drop into the Awakening community on Facebook. Happy to help out. I'm always posting stuff every day. Thank you, everyone. Yes?
Thank you for letting me join.
When is daylight savings over there finishing? We need to know the time.
November 1st.
Oh, okay. Can you remind me the week before that happens?
Sure.
Yeah.
November 1st is daylight savings? Okay, November 1st, so we'll hopefully remember. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
And come back,
everybody.
Sharon. Come back.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Bye, guys. Have a great night.
So much to marinate on.
Thanks, Daniel.
It is.
I won't do it. Someone
You'll
else.
get it.
Exactly.
Time.
Okay.
It won't be me doing it.
Good night, everyone.